Hi there, I'm Dr. Stephanie Falk, and today I plan to talk a little bit about communication. But given our current state of affairs, the social injustice and inequality that has been so highlighted in recent awful events that have occurred, I just can't help but want to talk about that and what we can all do to make our world a little bit better as it relates to equality for all. George Floyd's death was an absolute atrocity. There's really no other way for me to describe that. And I have a lot of pain and heartache around that situation and around his loss. Talking to a few friends this weekend, there were two pervasive themes that kept coming up. In our conversations, number one was disgust and pain around his death. And number two was a sense of helplessness and hopelessness. I want to talk about how we can all do our part. Truthfully, what needs to happen is every single one of us need to do our part to make things better as it relates to equality for every single one of us. Our country needs healing and it needs hope. And I think that it's really hard when we're overwhelmed with a sense of helplessness or hopelessness. I don't think that there's a worse feeling, really. So how can we lean into love rather than hate? How can we do something to make things better and different? Because that definitely needs to take place. George Floyd's death highlights a divide that's been there, a divide that continues to permeate our society. It highlights the bigotry that exists. It highlights sexism. It highlights racism. It highlights any type of social injustice in our great nation. So we can do two things. These are my thoughts and ideas. I don't have all of the answers, definitely don't. But I want you to consider two things that I think that you can do and that I'm going to do as well. Number one is to take a hard look in the mirror. When you go to school to be a therapist, one of the first courses that you have is a course on cultural competency. And the purpose of it is twofold. Number one, to really educate you about some ideas and thoughts around people that are different than yourself. And number two, to embark on a personal journey to really expand your understanding and expand your heart, to confront your biases. The first thing that they had us do in the class is to write down what our biases were. And I remember thinking, I'm going to like this class. I'm going to appreciate learning about different people, but I don't really have biases. Like, this journey isn't going to be as impactful for me as one of my colleagues. And obviously, as I'm talking about this in a jovial way, like, that wasn't the case. I realized that I had biases as well, things that I hadn't really anticipated having, beliefs about different groups of people. And so I think we don't often realize what our biases are until we're asked to take a step back and to consider what were the stories that you were told growing up about maybe a different gender or people from a different religious group or people from a different racial or ethnic group. What were the stories that you were told? What was the dialogue about in your home or in the social group in which you were embedded, the school that you went to, the sports group, church, whatever it was necessarily? What were the things that you learned about people who were different than you? That's a really great place to start. Secondly, what I would ask you to do under this idea of taking a hard look at yourself is then educate yourself. Try to figure out, how can I learn about this people that's a little bit different from me? We can read things. We can delve into literature. We can read their words of anyone that we define as other or different than ourselves. And what I would ask us to do when we're doing that research is to try to understand what are the commonalities that exist and what are the differences. Next, I think the best way by far is get to know people that are different than you. Get to know people from different religious groups. Get to know people from a different racial or ethnic group. I think that is the absolute best way to disconfirm any preconceived notions that you have. I think that what you'll find is your understanding will be opened and your heart will be softened as well. And rather than embracing this idea and word that I can't stand, tolerate, I think that you'll move into a place of acceptance. Tolerate, to me, it's always gotten under my skin. It's this idea that, you know what, you're not me, I'm not you, we're very different, and I'm just not going to cause a problem. I'm not going to get in your way of living your life, but I'm definitely not accepting you or loving you. To me, that's what tolerate means. I'm going to live my life and you're going to live yours. Rather than more of an integrated idea of we're all in this together and we're different and let's honor our differences. Let's love our differences. Let's support our differences. Let's accept one another. I hope that myself and you included can move into a better place of acceptance for everyone, regardless of the way that they live their life, where they're from, gender, all of those things. Next, after taking a hard look at ourselves, what can we do? Take action. If we do nothing, we are a part of the problem, not a part of the solution. We need everyone to take action to make the world a better place, more unified in love and acceptance, and not hate or tolerance. So how can we take action? When I use the word activism or taking action or activist, I think that sometimes people feel like that's really overwhelming. They don't know how that fits and works for them in their life. I think we can be an activist in very different ways. I think we can be an activist in the walls within our own home. I think we can educate anyone that's younger. Maybe you have children or nieces or nephews. We can have dialogues about equality. We can talk about people who are different from ourselves. We can invite them into our home and share dinners and allow our children and our nieces and our nephews to get to know people that are very different, to expand their thoughts and understandings and to expand their hearts. I know one thing that I try to do in my home is I try to have reading material. I try to have reading material available from people that I really appreciate from different cultural and racial backgrounds. And so one of my heroes has always been Maya Angelou. And so I have this book and probably 3 other books about her that dot different areas of my home. And she's not only now my hero, but she's also become my children's hero as well, my son and my daughters. And I really appreciate that because they're getting to know and understand someone from a different racial background and someone that has become their hero. So there's, to me, that's not minor necessarily, but it doesn't require you to maybe take part in a demonstration or a protest. I think those are amazing ways as well to get involved in activism and to inspire social change. But for those of you where that feels maybe a little bit big or overwhelming, I think we can really focus on the way that we relate and understand other people and the way that we talk about people that are different from ourselves and educate and inspire understanding and the softening of hearts in our children, in our nieces and nephews, in the neighborhood kids that we spend time with. I really appreciate you tuning in. And I know that this is a very difficult and heavy topic. Again, I don't have all of the answers, simply things to consider. I would say, if you want to do something to make a change, take a look in the mirror, try to educate, learn, listen more than anything, expand your thoughts, expand your heart, and then take action. Maybe within the walls of your home, maybe more politically oriented action that looks like a demonstration or a protest or letters to local authorities, things of that sort, I think. I think that it's time for a change, and I think that it's long overdue. And the recent events really highlight the social injustice that continues to permeate our great nation. I hope that we can all do something a little bit different. I hope that this finds you having an absolutely beautiful day, and thank you for tuning in.